Hey everyone, we're here with Joe Baguley, CTO for EMEA for VMware. Joe, obviously you're doing a lot with EvoRail here.
Yeah.
What's the sort of feedback from customers on all the announcements?
I think most people have been massively excited because we're disrupting again with EvoRail, right? So when we did virtualization originally, Pat likes to call it a non-disruptive disruptive play, which means it's a non-disruptive technology to customers, but disruptive to an industry. And I think with EvoRail, people are celebrating the fact we're doing that again. We're coming in with the easiest way, the Lego building block for the data center, that's non-disruptive for customers, but it's disrupting an entire industry, and the hardware industry as itself. And you can see how they're recognizing the disruption by how many have signed up. And here in VMworld Barcelona, we've announced 2 more with both HP and Hitachi data systems. And it's really cool to just keep announcing more and more partners, because it further validates in the mind of the attendees and customers that this really is what's going to happen in the future.
Yeah, it's amazing to see all these big hardware vendors sort of getting behind this idea and really embracing it, and as you say, well, making a big change in the market. Yeah. We're boasting that 60 minutes is all that it takes for a customer to really
15.
get this. 15 even, see, it's much quicker.
Yeah.
But for them to get it up and running, what's their feedback on that? Are they buying it, or?
Well, so I did the EvoRail super session after the day 1 keynote yesterday with Mornay and the team. And we talked there about it's 15 minutes from when you power it on to when you actually run your first VM. And the first question from the audience at the end of the session was, that'll never work in my environment. And you're kind of like, really? And we had a conversation, and it turns out that that's actually nothing to do with the technology. That's much more to do with the people and process around that. And I think it's an idea that a lot of these new technologies, SDDC as a whole, and networking, all the other pieces that are going in that, will require an organization to evolve to take advantage of that. When we evolved transport, we didn't, the classic, we didn't make horses faster, we didn't automate horses, we built cars. And so I think people need to look at how they change their processes and the way they do things, and the focus of IT to take advantage of this technology. And I think EvoRail is going to highlight that, as people spend a lot less time integrating hardware and plugging things together, and a lot more time doing stuff with those applications and VMs.
Yeah, so I think this is one clear example where we make it abundantly clear that it's all about people process. Technology is often like maybe 20-30% of the difficulty. How are customers, because you've been speaking to customers here but all year long, how are they usually doing the integration of the technology and making sure they get all the benefits out of it? Do they run side projects to take care of the people and process side?
Well, so I think there's 3 real ways you can get to the SDDC from a hardware perspective. You can integrate your existing technology that you've got. You can maybe go with conversion infrastructure like a VBOC or a FlexPod, or you can now go with the hyperconverged. And I don't think any one is the right answer. And which one is the right answer depends on your organization, your readiness and your willingness to adapt, and also the demand that you've got on your infrastructure. So I'm seeing across the board, people are accepting these, but obviously at much varying rates depending on the size of the organization, how much legacy they've got, and also how much expertise. It requires a lot more expertise to build an SDDC out of all the bits and pieces than it does to buy an EvoRail and maybe buy vRealize Suite as a service off vCloud Air and just go. That's the big difference there.
Yeah, so I mean, talking about getting help everywhere, community is a very big thing here. There's lots of VMUG activity going on, there's other communities. You're a very big sponsor of the VMUGs. I know you prioritize VMUG meetings over anything.
Yep.
Can you talk us a little bit about what you're doing here for VMUGs and throughout the year?
So yeah, I've just come back from the VMUG Leader Lunch, where we celebrate all these people that give up their time. It's not their job, they have other real jobs, and in their spare time they run the VMware user group meetings across EMEA. And so we celebrate them, we bring them together, we do some awards, and Pat and myself sit on stage and are open and candid with them for quite a long period of time as they ask questions about us, about the technology, about product naming, and various other fun things that have gone on recently. But to be honest, as you said, I really see VMUGs as the core of what we do at VMware. And when my counterpart, Chris Wolf, started earlier this year, we were talking about what should he do to start. I said, get out there to some VMUGs. Go out and find out what's going on in the community, find out how people are using our software, find out what's right, find out what's wrong, and go with that. And also, you sometimes get some really nice surprises, as you well know. So earlier, it was last year at the at VMworld in San Francisco, a guy came up to me and I look at his badge and it says he works for Lego. It's Enrico, and I'm like, wow, you work for Lego, that's so cool. He's like, yeah, and he said, and then he asked me, he says, I'm a leader for the VMUG in Denmark. Will you come and do a keynote for me? And I said, yes, of course. And then I realized I'd given up my bargaining. And I said, any chance of a tour? And he organized the most amazing tour for myself and Chad and all the other VMUG presenters, and we had a day playing with robotics and looked around the factory, and it was amazing. So sometimes these things can really come and pay off, and travel's not so bad when you get to go and play with Lego just before Christmas.
Yeah, exactly. It's a proper win-win situation for everyone. They get you to present there and you get the Lego tour. One thing that you just said resonated with me is you get a lot of feedback also about what's working, but also what's not working.
Yeah.
Obviously, you being the CTO, that's very important for you. How does that feedback get incorporated into product development, into the way that you talk to our engineering?
That's actually core to my role, to be honest, is to be a leader back into that. So for example, myself and my counterpart Chris in the US, we do quarterly what are called town halls back to the whole of R&D. We go to Palo Alto, it's televised internally in the company, and we talk about a topic. So we've done one on SDDC, recently we did one on EUC, bringing back market intelligence, feedback from the field, anecdotes from customers that we see. And to be honest, the feedback we then get and the interaction we get from R&D with people going, oh, tell me more, hook me up, really, underlines what we're doing as field CTOs, is really helping hook those two communities together. And I find that, by extending that through the group we've got, which is the CTO ambassadors, and if you ever get to meet anyone here at VMworld, or just generally in your daily business who is a CTO ambassador, they're over 100 of our top technical people who are kind of to scale out myself and Chris and Paul Strong to engage more between R&D and the field and customers. So we're trying as much as possible to really hook that together.
Perfect. And what would be a typical place or location or meeting where people would run into either these ambassadors or yourself? If they want to give feedback, what's the chance? Where could they do it best?
VMUGs.
All the VMUGs.
We go to VMUGs. I encourage and actively encourage my team to go to VMUGs. Next VMUG you go to, you might find one of the guys presenting from VMware is a CTO ambassador. But pretty much anyone.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Joe. And for the people watching this, if you have some feedback, you want to give us feedback about what you think about some of the products, go to the VMUGs. It's really added value, and they're definitely worth your time. Thanks, Joe.
Thanks so much, Jeremy. Cheers.